What if I told you that one of the most powerful investing lessons of all time is hiding in plain sight? Not in some dense textbook, but in a nearly 50-year-old letter written during a time of absolute financial chaos. Well, today, we're going to decode Warren Buffett's 1977 masterclass, penned at a moment when most people thought investing was completely dead. So let's actually do it. Let's jump in a time machine. The year is 1977. The stock market is just a total mess, and pretty much the only thing anyone is selling is fear. But out in Omaha, a much younger Warren Buffett sits down and starts writing. And the letter he writes to his shareholders, well, it's not just some corporate update. It turns out to be a timeless guide for how to think straight when everyone else is losing their minds. First, you really have to understand just how bleak things were back then. See, 1977 wasn't just a down year for the market. It felt, to a lot of people, like the whole idea of owning stocks was fundamentally broken. It felt like the game was over. The economy was caught in this absolute nightmare they called stagflation, which meant you had basically no growth, but prices for everything were still soaring. The oil crisis had sent these shockwaves through the entire system. And pessimism, well, it wasn't just a feeling, it was pretty much the air that everyone was breathing. A major business magazine literally ran a cover story titled, "The Death of Equities." I mean, can you imagine? That's how bad it was. But while the rest of the world was basically running for the exits, this calm, deeply rational voice was writing from the middle of the country. And this letter, it wasn't really a financial report. It was a masterclass in how to think clearly when everyone around you is panicking. And this quote, this gets to the absolute heart of his entire philosophy. While everyone else was glued to the flashing red lights of the stock ticker, Buffett was basically saying, hey, you're watching the wrong game. The real scoreboard isn't the daily price swings. It's how the actual business does, over years and years. In an age of pure panic, this was a totally revolutionary idea. And that long-term mindset, that leads us directly to the first huge mental model he reveals in the letter, one that he even admits he learned the hard way. He calls it catching the tailwind. And here, Buffett does something that you almost never see a CEO do. He gets brutally honest about his own mistakes. He compares two different parts of his company. On one side, you have the old textile business, which he straight up says had a very poor year. He admits he was wrong about it. But then, on the other side, you have the insurance business. And here's the key psychological insight. He explains that in a great business like insurance, some mistakes can be made and yet a quite satisfactory overall performance can be achieved. And boom, there it is, the big reveal. The lesson wasn't about being a genius manager. It was about the kind of business you're in. He realized it's so much better to be an average manager in a fantastic business with a powerful tailwind at your back than it is to be a brilliant manager in a terrible business, constantly fighting against headwinds. Okay, so if the whole goal is to find these great businesses that have these strong tailwinds, how do you actually do that? Well, this brings us to the second huge lesson from 1977. You've got to stop thinking like you're just picking stocks and start thinking like you're buying a piece of a real business. And to do that, Buffett lays out this beautifully simple but incredibly profound 4-point checklist. First, can we actually understand the business? Second, does it have durable long-term prospects? In other words, a tailwind. Third, is it run by people who are honest and know what they're doing? And finally, the big one, is it available at a really attractive price? Now notice what's not on this list. There's nothing about stock charts or market forecasts or predicting the economy. It's just pure business analysis. And when you start using this framework, it completely rewires how your brain reacts to a scary market. That feeling of fear when prices start falling, it doesn't just go away. It actually gets replaced by a feeling of opportunity. I mean, listen to this. This is the key. Buffett says he welcomes lower prices. Just let that sink in. While the rest of the world in 1977 was freaking out and selling everything, he was looking at it like a huge sale at his favorite store. It was a chance to buy more of a wonderful business, but at a discount. That is the ultimate contrarian mindset, and it comes directly from thinking like a business owner. All right, so when you put these two huge ideas together, finding businesses with tailwinds and thinking like an owner, you get the one single golden rule from this entire masterclass. Let's just call it Tailwind Investing. It's this simple practice of focusing all of your energy, not on guessing what the market will do, but on finding excellent businesses that are being pushed forward by these huge long-term forces. It's about finding a business that is so good it can succeed, even if the people running it make a few mistakes along the way. It really is that simple. You can spend your entire life fighting, just rowing as hard as you can against a powerful current, or you can find a strong wind, put up a sail, and let it do the hard work for you. Buffett's genius was realizing it's better to be a sailor than a rower. So, what does this all mean? What's the big takeaway from all this? How does wisdom from a nearly 50-year-old letter apply to you and me right now? Well, it means that your main job as an investor isn't to predict the market's mood swings. It's not about guessing what happens next week or next year. Your real job is to become an analyst of the wind. Before you put a single dollar into anything, the most important question you can ask is this: is this business fighting a headwind, or is it sailing with a powerful, long-term tailwind at its back? And that really leaves us with the critical question for right now. The lesson is timeless, but the winds are always changing. So as you look at the world today, at things like AI, at huge demographic shifts, at the energy transition, what are the powerful tailwinds pushing some industries forward? And what are the brutal headwinds holding others back? Finding the answer to that question? Well, that's the real secret.